Music enriches life. When truly heard, it connects and moves you to another time, another place. Our passion for music drives us to pursue the extraordinary. It inspires us to create systems, precision engineered to deliver purity and clarity of sound, individually built and exquisitely tailored for you. Because music is an expression of who we are. A life with Linn is a life enriched.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday afternoon Qobuz Live. Today we have got Linn. We've got Gilad Tiefenbrun from Linn. He's their managing director. This guy is just so interesting and has so much to talk about with Linn, who have forever been a company that have been on a path of innovation. Really from the first turntable that these guys brought out that's now just totally world famous. What an incredible company. So we'll have Gilad on in just a few minutes, and we'll get going with this thing. I'd like to thank Neetha Viraporn for producing today's show. Thank you very much, Neetha. And to tell you a little bit about me and Qobuz. I'm David Solomon. I'm Qobuz Chief High-Res Music Evangelist. That's the title. It's really a lot of business development and branding and things like this. And I think I might have the coolest job in the world, maybe only second to Gilad. As far as Qobuz goes, we offer over 50 million tracks in at least full resolution, but well over 2 million in high resolution up to 24/192, which is going to really go well with our discussion today with Linn. We just so you know, we've got a download store too. I think a lot of people don't know that, but you don't even have to be a member to use the download store. The prices are really better than any other download store that I know of, and literally anything on Qobuz can be purchased for your own library. Even if you're not someone who likes to keep music and you're only a big streamer, the best reason for me these days for downloading is artist support. They need your support. You've probably been reading a lot of articles these days, and we want to help these guys out any way we can. This is a terrific way to support your favorite artist. We have subscriptions for our studio starting at about $15. It's actually starting at about $12.50 per month if you pay annually. If not, it's $14.99 per month, and that gives you rights to stream everything that we've got on the service up to 24/192. And now we've just opened a family plan. We've been asked about this for really since we started. And finally, a few weeks ago, we opened up our family plan for about $25 a month. That will take care of 6 of your family members, which is only like $5 a piece. It's really under $5 a piece for that service. And to celebrate that, sorry about that. To celebrate that, we're doing a giveaway. We're giving away 5 sets of Grado headphones. So go over to Qobuz, Qobuz.com or Qobuz Social, and also Streaming Music Matters, and you'll be able to see those, see and enter those contests within the next few days. So yeah, with that, I think we'll bring on Gilad. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Very good, David. How are you?
Thank you for making the time to do this, Gilad. It's really an honor to have you.
Well, it's an honor to be here, of course.
Well, let's see now. It's kind of it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, but we appreciate you, staying up, probably close to bedtime. What time is it there now?
Oh, it's nearly my bedtime. So if I start to kind of fall asleep during this, you'll know what's going on. It's not you. It's getting really late here.
If one more guest says that to me, we're really happy to have you, though. Linn was founded in 1973 by Gilad's dad, Ivor, who is an absolute industry icon, and that's 47 years ago. And let's see, Gilad, he came out. I think the first product that came out was the LP12, right?
Yeah. So my mum and dad, they got married, got some money, and my dad bought a hi-fi system and was disappointed with it. And so started to tinker with it. He was a mechanical engineer. And at the time, everybody thought the speakers were all that mattered. But he found that very small improvements to the turntable that he'd bought made a massive improvement to the sound. And that made him realize that people got everything upside down. And actually, the key thing was to extract the most information possible from the source, which is something, of course, that Qobuz knows all about. And that became kind of the philosophy of the turntable that he designed, the Sondek LP12. And it's been continuously in production for 47 years, which, by the way, is exactly how old I am. So I've also been continuously in production for that time.
So you entered the hi-fi industry like on the birthing table. Is that correct?
Correct. I've never known anything else.
One of the Linn taglines that I just absolutely love, because really it represents, I think, a lot. I think it says a lot about the company, while having a bit of pride associated with it. The company philosophy, I think, back to 1972 turned into, it's you can do it the Linn way or you can do it the wrong way. So really, I dig that.
Sorry, at that time the t-shirts just said "Simply Better," so that was kind of the very early strapline that the company had.
I kind of want the Linn way or the wrong way t-shirt. I think that would be kind of a cool t-shirt.
I'm doing that even now, but I know I'll take it. That's fine.
You know something, it really is. I mean, you could say that a lot of companies could use that as a tagline or something similar to a tagline, but you guys have proven these kinds of things throughout the years. Why don't you, kind of from your own words, why don't you give us a bit of Linn, about a bit of Linn history?
Yeah, I mean, the history is one of innovation. So that whole story with my dad and just kind of rethinking things for himself from first principles is the philosophy of the company today. And so we're not motivated by a given product or a given format. We're motivated by getting the most music possible into the home. And that drives our decision making. And so as my dad started with the turntable, he also had ideas about active loudspeakers that he wanted to put into practice. So that came around quickly. But then after that, we've over the years, we've found ways to make improvements to digital to analog conversion. So we got into CD, DVD, SACD, surround sound, multi-room, very early into multi-room with the first full resolution balanced audio multi-room system. So that's in our DNA, that whole idea of just like find the best way to deliver the music. And that's led us down that kind of Linn way, where some of our decisions on the kind of products we make are often quite different to what other companies do.
I love the idea behind active speakers. You guys, I've been through, God, maybe a dozen demos, a few of them with you actually, and they're really, really enjoyable, and it really teaches people about the deficiencies in rooms. No, the rooms are not very good. I mean, these days, most of the time, if you luck out, I don't know if you've ever lucked out. Once I lucked out. I had a house that was built in the early 1900s, and it had the slat plaster walls, right? So the resonant frequency of this room was maybe a little up at like 40 cycles. I mean, this was like a super, super solid room, best sounding room that I ever had. I bought my next house around the sound room because I thought it was going to sound so good. This was like a half-inch tongue and groove pine paneling. So it's all broken up, really heavy walls. I figured, I look at it, I'm going, this room is going to have a wonderfully low resonant frequency. So I finally moved in, because you can't bring your hi-fi, right? So I bring my hi-fi over finally when I moved in. Worst room ever. I am a huge, huge believer in active speakers because you can do so much with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed that active speakers are not more common by this time, given how long that they've been around for. And our journey with active speakers has taken us into digital active speakers. So we had a chief engineer in the early days, a guy called Bill Miller, who was at Linn forever, before I was full-time at Linn. And he was such a passionate advocate of active speakers. And he had a genuine belief that you should be able to get a better sound from one active speaker than an entire separate hi-fi system. And so over the years, Linn's kind of like crunched together all these different components that were traditionally separate and created product categories that combine things so that we can shorten the signal path. And we do have active speakers that are fully integrated, like the two behind me here, and are digital. And you send the high resolution digital file from Qobuz in this case straight to the speaker does everything. And so actually with everything happening inside the speaker, it creates like the shortest path of loss that you could possibly get. Now, that's really one of these things, like going back to your comment at the beginning, which, you know, that's a Linn way, but customers haven't been like really fast to adapt away from that more traditional separate, you know, player, preamplifier, power amplifier, loudspeaker model. And I think that's held back the take up of active speakers. But you know, we're still banging at that door of active speakers, because from what you're saying, I mean, the benefits are just huge. It's a lot more efficient. You get a lot more control over the drive units, and then we layer on our space optimization technology on top of that, and we can deal with, you know, the worst of the room modes as well.
So the reason that I'm so into this technology is I've always wondered why more companies didn't do active loudspeakers, because if you look at like any professional venue, there are no decent or two wonderful professional venues that don't subscribe to this philosophy. They're always controlling
I think I
every
know
single
the
driver.
answer, David. Yeah, I think the answer is that if you're making a passive speaker, you're basically a mechanical engineering person or business, because you've got a cabinet, you've got some drive units, you've got resistors and capacitors, you've got passive crossover network. When you go into active speakers, you need to have expertise in electronics. When you go into digitally active speakers, you need to have expertise in electronics and software as well. And I think just fundamentally the fact that it's a more complex product that requires multiple engineering disciplines to make is why there are so many passive speakers on the market and not so many active speakers.
Yeah, I mean, from firsthand experience, I know going into business making speakers, I owned a speaker company a while back. I mean, and to a lot of us guys, it's like, okay, we got a box, we saw a couple holes in it. Yep, these are great drivers. Oh yeah, I got a pretty good ear. We can do a good crossover. But really, it is a quite an antiquated way to do things with the technology that's available to us today. So I really commend you guys on not only making systems, but making systems that work in any kind of an environment that that human beings have, because
Yeah,
so few of us have studio-like environments that we set our system up. I mean,
yeah, well,
real life happens,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
when life happens, you have to be able to not have to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that couch won't go. That couch simply won't go there." Right? I
yeah,
mean, things happen. You put things where they go, right?
exactly. And also, you know, the way that your music system fits with your life is going to relate to how often it gets used. You know, so we've always thought of a music system as being something for the whole family, or certainly being able to be used by the whole family, and that has actually led us to make like more slimmer and try and make things smaller, more energy efficient, neater, combine things together, fewer boxes, try and like make a virtue of making things small, which I know is not the American way. Like, I mean, this is what we say here. Like in America, you guys tend to think like bigger is better. But that's really different to what we do at Linn.
Yeah, no, I mean the gear performs like crazy. I personally, I wouldn't care if it were, micro size, if it performs the way it does, and it does. It just performs incredibly well in every situation that I've seen in it, whether it be analog or digital. Going back kind of the analog part though, the LP12 gave you guys talking about a discipline with a company. A couple of things that I really like that really have followed you and followed the philosophy of the LP12 or the beginnings of the company or the Linn way or the wrong way. It's almost everything, or so much of your gear is upgradable.
That's right.
I had the LP12 for, gosh, it had to be 15 years, maybe 18 years. And, once every so often it would go, oh, well, here's an upgrade to this turntable that's going to bring it up to modern speed. Who keeps a turntable for 15 years? I mean, right.
Yeah.
So I really commend you guys on the upgradability of your systems. And that's a real care for customers that you don't see with every company.
Yeah, and that's why the LP12 is still going strong. And I was actually out at Music Matters in March launching the latest LP12 upgrade, which is a bearing upgrade. And that's massive because the central bearing is like the most essential part of any turntable. Is it's spinning at the right speed. And every record is printed with the assumption that it's going to be played at the speed that's written on it, no faster, no slower. And so this is the first bearing upgrade we've made since 1993, and only the second bearing upgrade we've ever made. I mean, we've probably made 100 upgrades to the turntable, but we've taken all the latest know-how and precision engineering into the new bearing design called Carousel. And boy, were we lucky that we launched that when we did, because as we went into the various lockdowns around the world, it's allowed our dealers to go back to their best existing customers. I mean, there's a huge number of these LP12s out in the market.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty affordable upgrade, and it's just become like, we call it like a bread and butter upgrade for LP12 owners all over the world. And it's really sustained the company and the dealers like through the last few months, before as things were really challenging. So they say timing is everything. And so that time in Seattle and that launch at Music Matters of the Carousel was just perfect timing for us. But it's just the latest in a long line of Sondek LP12 upgrades. And it's the reason why we have this customer loyalty. It's the reason, and we take that philosophy into, as you say, it's not just in the turntable, it's across all our product range. And it's this idea of a journey for life, like a life enriched with Linn, is this idea that you have this Linn system and it grows with you, and you're able to upgrade it, expand it, add other rooms. And some of the things that really make us kind of really think about what we're going to do next is always, well, who are we bringing with on this journey? And the idea that we'd never want to leave a customer behind. We always want to give customers an option to come on that next step with us. And it's quite in the forefront of our thinking when we're in discussions of any new product development.
Yeah, that's awesome. In the same vein, you guys really are concentrating on what I have considered forever to be the two major sources in audio right now. I mean, high quality audio, to me, there's two sources. I use them both. There's vinyl with the LP12, and then also you guys have done a job with digital that I have been enamored with, really since you started. The first time, I still remember the day that this was announced. I think it came out in a couple of the rags or something that Linn drops CD players for streaming. This was before. How did you guys think of this? This was like before any high quality streaming started. At that particular time, I got to tell you, I was busy ripping everything I could into a hard drive because you could see what was going on, but you guys were actually the ones that went, look, this is the way it is. This is what's going to happen. Can you tell me a little bit about the decision-making process? I even want to know about boardroom fights. Somebody had to stand up and want to take somebody out over this decision.
That's absolutely right. That is exactly what happened. But so imagine, I've been out of the company. So I was working and living in London and working in tech at that time. And I remember this conversation with my dad in about 2001, where he told me that Linn was launching a new line of CD players. And I was like, why are you launching a new line of CD players? CD players, they're going to be dead. They'll be gone. because everything's moving to the cloud. It's all going to be streaming. And he said to me, well, calm down. That will happen, I'm sure, but these things don't happen as fast as you think, so there's still a long, long road for CD. When I joined the company, which is 2003, I found out that our record label, Linn Records, was already recording high resolution. So we sold CD players, but we were recording at that time, I think at 2496, which was the highest we could record at. So I was thinking, well, because my job at that time when I joined Linn was to run the product development side. So I was thinking, well, my task is to make the great new products. And wouldn't it be great is instead of spinning a CD, you just took the 2496 and delivered it straight into people's homes, direct into their living rooms. And so I started to talk to the engineers about this, and there were some arguments, and some people thought I was crazy, and quite a few people didn't stick around for that journey. But I started a little skunkworks team who believed in that idea, and we almost immediately started developing a high resolution streaming platform. Probably half the people in the company didn't even know what we were talking about. But I said, look, we're going to need this because this is the way it's going to go. And for Linn, what's going to differentiate us is the high resolution aspect of it. So we developed the technology before we even had an idea for a product. The product came later. And probably the crucial decision was when we did come out with a streamer, was to house it in the same chassis, the same external as our CD player. So to make it look like a hi-fi product so that people would welcome it. And we viewed it as kind of a bridge from the hi-fi world of CD playing into this new high resolution world. We wanted to bridge people across, hold them by the hand and say, look, it looks just like a CD player. It just doesn't have anywhere to put a CD. That's how we described it, right? So when we're developing this, and my dad at the time kept saying to me, what is it? What is this thing? What do you call it? Before we launched the product, I'm like, I don't know what we call it. It streams digital content, So, okay, we'll call it DS. We'll call it digital streamer. And that was where we came up with the name for it. In the meantime, this battle raged on as some people were quick to embrace that idea. I'd say the US was one of the quickest markets to embrace that idea. But if you went to a market, when I was out in Japan, I would just be confronted with these critics, these old critics, the most revered, respected guys in the industry out there. And they're just no, we don't accept this. This is not hi-fi. And you couldn't get them to really listen to it because they just thought this is going to destroy hi-fi. But, they were wrong. And ultimately, a new generation of critics came through in Japan who embraced it. And Japan did become a huge market for us for streaming. But markets like the US and UK was fairly quick as well. And Germany was pretty quick. They kind of led the way and of customers kind of being excited about streaming. And at that time, there was only MP3 players. So when we launched our first product, which was the Climax DS, which you saw on that slide just there, it didn't even play MP3. We went to market with it only playing high resolution files, and it cost $20,000 in the US, I think. And people were like, who's going to pay $20,000 for something that doesn't even play MP3s? But we knew our customers, and we knew our mission was to enthuse and was just to get people closer to the music. And at that price, we didn't actually need we didn't need tens of thousands of customers or anything. We just needed those early adopters, those super passionate music fans to really embrace it, and they became the advocates. And over the next few years, we then expanded into a full line of DS, digital streamers, network music players at various price points, and we started to grow the volumes at that time and bring more and more people into streaming. Now, that is coupled with the decision to stop making CD players. This came about because I was at a customer event, and I was showing the CD player, our CD player, side by side with our streamer. And people were listening, and everyone agreed the streamer sounded way better. And then somebody said to me, well, if your streamer is so good, why would I buy your CD player? I gave some kind of corporate answer,
Right.
CD players, there's still a place for them, whatever I said. I got back to the boardroom, And I said, I never want to have to answer that question again. I said, like, we can't be selling a product that we can't put our hand on our heart and say, you should buy this. Like, from my point of view, there was no reason for a customer to buy one of our CD players because our streamers were better in every way. No moving parts, software upgradable, all these new formats coming along, ability to control from the now growing market of personal devices. Like, they just beat CD players in every way. And that's where that decision came from ultimately. Like, you have financial guys going, but we're going to lose so much revenue from that. That's like, look, that's who we are. You know, we have to back what we're doing. We have to go with our hearts and what we believe in. And the strategy became to establish ourselves as the world leaders in streaming. And that's what we did over the subsequent years.
Yeah, and I think over the subsequent years, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, right at the launch of the first digital streamers, you guys realized, like, I think it was like 6 years in a row of record profits.
Yeah, we had a very, very strong time. And that was coming out of the global financial crisis as well.
Right.
So, and that was another thing my dad taught me is, like, you know, the salmon swim upstream, you know, in Scotland. We have the salmon here, you know, and they swim up, it's like, you got to be strong like the salmon. You swim upstream. And so
I love that. That is so cool. That's and so true. You know what? It's a lot harder, but at the end of the day, if you really know where you're going, how much more how far does that take your company ahead? It's like you have a turbocharge when people kind of catch up with what you're doing, because you know what? You are absolutely 100% right. It's so wild how our backgrounds have got a similar history. I can remember just about at the same time. It was actually probably a couple of years earlier than this. I think it's around 2007 or so. There was a showroom in Phoenix, Arizona, Jerry Kowitz. I'm trying to remember the name of the company, but they had invited me down to talk about digital audio and streaming. Back then, the streaming was, you were burning your CDs into, iTunes or, whatever, some sort of a music management system, and then you were streaming those from your computer. Streaming as we know it today just didn't exist. So, I thought I was going to be really cool, and so I loaded up a bunch of albums, my favorite albums, onto a hard drive, and I carried this over to the Audiophile Society in Phoenix, Arizona, and it sounded great. I mean, it really did. I mean, even in the early days, if you recorded correctly, if you picked out a really good album, something that was recorded well, and you transferred this onto your disc at 1644, then it sounded pretty good. It sounded as good or better, as you say, than the disc did. Well, I had my computer open, I hit play, and I'm sitting back there just thinking to myself, oh my God, the world is changing in the most wonderful ways. And all I had to do was, hit a button, and that magically this stuff plays. And I think about 2/3 of the audience, they were just jaw dropped. They didn't even know what to think. But this one guy, he's got to be dead by now, because he was like 85 at the point. He stood up in the middle of this thing. He starts yelling at me at the top of his lungs. Well, he was 85. I couldn't hear him. I had the music cranked, right? So I cranked the music down, and he was visibly upset. I go, sir, what's up? And he's going, we're audiophiles. We don't want computers in our audio system. And I said to him right then, and I start looking around, I'm going, guys, I don't see anybody here under like 70. If you're gonna have people join your group, you really need to kind of start catching up with the future, which it wasn't even the future at that point. To your point, we were seeing the future, which to me is much, much more valuable than reacting to the future. So I commend you guys on doing that. That was such a, pardon my French, ballsy move that I think that had the whole world going, what are these guys thinking? I mean, it was a great move. So congratulations. Hey, Neetha, why don't you pull up the slide of the Linn DSM players and let Gilad just kind of take us through each one of these, because they're all They're all very different. They all got different features, and they're really kind of meant for certain people. And then as soon as we finish doing this, I want to talk about the System 3 a little bit, because what a great natural extension of that product. And you guys did such a great job on it. So, Gilad, can you just kind of take us through the players real quick?
So starting on the top left is the Climax DSM. So that's the evolution of the product I was describing that we first launched in 2007. And in fact, if you bought the 2007 version, you can have it fully upgraded to the current version. And that's had multiple DAC upgrades, multiple software upgrades, and the addition of HDMI inputs if you want them as well. And so it's got the ability to be like a ultra high performance DAC with network music streamer and a hub for your sources. And in fact, all those players can do that.
So you're telling me this thing came out in 2007?
Yeah.
And someone could upgrade it to today's specs?
Correct.
That's amazing. Very, very much like going back to the LP12 philosophy, right?
Well, my dad taught me well, David. You know, that's the company philosophy. So we would never have been able to do that with a CD player, because the technology in a CD player is quite closed and proprietary. Like, you have to buy the technology from like Sony, Philips, those guys. But with streaming, you know, it's an open platform, and it gives you these possibilities of creating, I guess, what we nicknamed internally like a digital LP12. You know, that was the concept. Like, could you do that modular upgradable thing you get with the LP12? Could you do it in the digital domain? So that was kind of our guiding light from the beginning. And so we've taken that forward. The product on the bottom left is the Select DSM we launched 2 years ago. That goes even further. It has the same functionality, but in addition, a cartridge system that is around the back of the product, where you can actually interchange these cartridges to create different performance levels. You can even add internal amplifiers to make it like an all-in-one product with streamer, preamp, power amp as well. And on the bottom right is
but stop before you keep going, because this really kind of goes along with what we were talking about at the beginning. If you've got one of these units, then really all you need is this unit and a pair of speakers, and you're done. Am I correct in saying this?
You are correct. Or if you prefer to use an external power amp, so you can do that.
What kind of power can you get? What's maxed out power on something like this?
It's like roughly 100 watts into 8 ohm kind of situation. If you want more, then you can add an extra cartridge or 2 extra cartridges, or you can go to external amps. So it's quite flexible in that way. So you can bi-amp or tri-amp with it if you want to do that.
Oh, that's cool.
Speakers. You can also run an active system with it. I mean, there's so many possibilities with the Select DSM. And you can have it has inbuilt phono stage. So typically our high-end products, the Climax product, is like more dedicated to the streaming side. And as you go down to something like Select DSM, you can integrate more stuff into it. And then when you get to the bottom right, which is Magic DSM, which we just launched last week, the new version of the Magic DSM, it's an all-in-one. You buy it as it is, as an all-in-one source, like streamer, preamp, power amp, all-in-one box, with all the HDMI connections, the phono stage. And that's really our entry-level product. Like, that's like, you just add passive speakers, and so it's more affordable, but it doesn't have the same kind of performance and upgradability options as the Select DSM and the Climax DSM.
Yeah, that's a fascinating line. That's a fascinating line of streamers, and what a commitment to that side of things that you guys have done. You must have been like me, totally flipping out when high resolution started making its way from a streaming standpoint, because now, I mean, it's like drinking from a hydrant, right? We've got so much stuff that we can pick and choose from, and these days it's sounding so incredible.
I mean, if you go back, like what you were saying, when we started recording high res at Linn Records, the only way you could get them was to download them from our website. And that was a laborious process. Like, people wanted to download an album, they might have to like download it overnight, you know?
Right.
Yeah, because you're talking about, at that time, 2 gigabytes was just enormous.
That's
Like
maxed out, right?
you couldn't even store the Linn catalog on most people's hard drives. You know what I mean? You needed a special massive hard drive at that time. So it came with quite a bit of pain at that time. And so when something, you know, when you guys come along and it is actually on tap, as you say, you're like, has it really got to this point? Can it really be this easy? Because what's happened then is you've taken away these barriers, these blockers that people have in their minds, are like how difficult it is to experience high-res music. And you can just say, well, actually, it's actually not difficult at all. You just subscribe, you know, and then you're away. And that's been a game changer for us as well. And I spent years talking to various people, record companies, Neil Young, all these people, trying to persuade them like how to do what you guys are doing. And they never quite got there, because the big record companies, they're not allowed to collaborate together. They have to watch for, you know, that they're not seen to be breaching competition rules or whatever. So they couldn't really make it happen. They're also so worried all the time about piracy. When really, if you look at, say, what Amazon did with books, like, it's much better just get on with it, make it easy. And don't worry about the fact, yeah, you can crack into your Kindle and steal every book and share it with everybody. But if it's that easy, why would you? Who can be bothered? And that was the model I was trying to like preach. Like look at me at that time as a 30-something, trying to tell Craig Kalman at Atlantic Records, you know, Warner Music, how they should solve the high-res streaming problem. But I felt so passionately about it. And that's why he put me with Neil Young, and like trying to get the Pono thing on the right track. And that never really worked out. But, you know, that's all history now. And now we have Qobuz, and we have a high resolution system that's really working for our customers.
Yeah, I think there's more and more that will, I'm sure, you know, join the party, because there's really just not much reason for MP3 these days, or low resolution digital music. It was only because of speed and space before, and those problems are gone. In fact, we made a pretty bold move a few months ago and just dropped our whole MP3 tier. We're going, nobody needs MP3 tier. Look, if you've got to have it, then it's out there, but it's just not going to be from us. It's not worth it. Which, I mean,
we saw that very early on, and we offered our downloads in MP3, CD, and high res. And we built our business model on that, based on 5% taking the high res and like probably 30% taking the MP3, and the rest going for the CD quality.
Oh, it's got to be a lot higher than that. How many went for the high res?
Well, from day one, 50% went for the high res, which was interesting because there was no Linn streamer or any high-end streamer to play that music on. And that was really interesting, because they were buying it just to own it, or they were finding ways to play it through their computer. And that gave us the confidence again to go with the Climax DS and launch that high-end streaming product. And then over time, and not very long time, the proportion of people taking the high res was well into over the 90%, well over 90%. So yeah, I agree with you. There's like not really a reason for MP3 now.
Yeah. I'm really excited too that, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and anytime any of us could get a Linn recording to play for people that were coming into our shops, you always knew, oh my God, this is going to be incredible. So I am really excited to tell everybody that within a short period of time, I don't have a date right now, but keep checking back. We're gonna have the Linn collection on Qobuz.
And it can't come soon enough, David. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a great moment.
I can't wait, because there's so much history just behind the recordings.
Yeah.
Back then, not a lot of people were making. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because it's going to make like access to the Linn catalog just so much easier for so many more people. So yeah, we are so excited about it.
It's gotten so much easier. It really has. Back in the day. In fact, I still have people that tell me they do this, but I've got to believe that they're kind of new and excited just about the technology. I hear people these days saying things like, oh, I'm in the middle of burning my CD collection in, what software should I use? And I don't know if you've ever had the occasion to have your heart totally broken because of because your hard drive went out on you after you spent 2 years of getting the metadata and everything just right. And even if you're really smart, see, I thought I was a super smart guy, so I backed up my hard drives, right? But even when you back up your hard drives, when you try to actually replace the one that burned, uh, the metadata always gets screwed up. I spent countless months just before streaming really started happening, countless months rebuilding my collection. So these days I tell people, and I really do think that this is the absolute best advice, don't burn your collection onto a hard drive. First off, there's a real good chance that on Qobuz there's going to be a high resolution version of it. And then secondly, I just don't want to see you get your heart broken when the thing burns out. The only thing that you should have on a hard drive these days, unless you're just totally, this is your preference, God bless you, if that's what you want to do, go for it. But really the only thing you should have on a hard drive these days are things that are so eclectic that you can't find them on streaming. And I've got tons of stuff like that, but that's the stuff now that I concentrate on my hard drive, which taxes my system so much less, and I end up using the hard drive less, so it lasts longer. And then plus these days there are solid state hard drives, so that's just my recommendation. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I've gone through so many generations of hard drive technology. So, and as you say, you get your fingers burnt. And so then you create multiple copies. Then you've got the problem of keeping those in sync with each other. And it just becomes like you're working for the technology instead of the technology working for you. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying 100%. I think probably a solid state drive is going to be on its way, and that will be my final migration on hard drive, and that will just be just for that precious backup. And then after that, I think that's me done with the hard drive technology.
I just ordered 2 1 terabyte hard drives, and that's going to be that'll be my last two. I'm getting
Yeah.
away from the whole spinning hard drive thing because we know what's going to happen to it at some point. Probably the same thing with the solid state, but at least right now, it seems to be a good bit more. It seems to be a good bit more stable. Hey, let's go into this cool product that you guys have got out now. Because people do like to have, of course, their main system, and I've got a couple of main systems, but there's a lot of times I spend in my bedroom or in my bathroom or in my den or places that I don't have super big high-end systems. Can you tell us a little bit about the System 3 and what you guys wanted to accomplish when you were putting this together? Because there's a bunch of powered speakers out there. So how is this one different?
So this takes like all the technology that we have and compresses it down into a single or stereo wireless speaker. And really we want to, as you say, create that simple solution for a bedroom. And I'm not making this up. Today I came home from work with one of these with the gold grill on it, actually, and I gave it to my soon to be 15-year-old middle daughter, who had been running a stereo system in her bedroom. And like if you've got teenage kids, like trying to get them to like keep the speakers in like a proper position or anything, it's a losing battle. So to take the stereo system she had out of her room, which was like the speakers were just almost facing each other, it was a disgrace of a system, and replace it just with a single simple wireless speaker like this is beautiful. The enclosure is made from like a reconstituted crushed stone, so it's a phenomenally acoustic enclosure that has fantastic properties and gives great bass performance. So I plugged it in for her, turned it on. It takes like 10 seconds like to get this thing set up. She's a happy teenager now, and I'm a happy dad because she's actually going to have some decent sound in her bedroom for a change. But it's that kind of thing where we probably wouldn't have developed this product if it weren't for the fact that, we were going into Harrods department store in London with a concession. And this is really the product that sells through there. And then we're now, moving to Selfridges as well and online. So It's a product that allows new people to connect with Linn in a way that doesn't involve like complicated setup. However, it does have space optimization technology in it. It does have our digital active crossover. People don't need to know that, but it's all inside there. And it's like that challenge of like making the best sound we possibly can in a very constrained space to try and create what we believe is the best sounding wireless speaker in the world.
Yeah, that's what I think these days. People don't always listen the way that we listened when we were growing up, and you know what, that's okay with me. I too have got a 17 and an 18-year-old. My daughter's just about to take off to college, and the kids do what the kids do. God bless them. I don't care how they listen as long as they listen. We started off with headphones. Well, here you
Exactly.
go. Here's some nice headphones. Here's high resolution. Do what you want to with it. Listen to it the way you want to, but I want you to have the better services out there. So now these days, my kids are listening to it, and both kids have a Prius, and both of them have these big Harman JBL systems in there, and they sound terrific. They plug their phone right in. Okay, guys, don't do Bluetooth, and we showed them why. And you plug this thing in, and I mean, they're not taking advantage of full 24 192 resolution, but their hi-fi sound a whole lot better than when they walk in and get into their buddy's car. So I don't care what they do, but I am the same way with you. I set my son up with this really killer. He was at school. Set my son up with this really killer system. I get on his bed. I'm up for 30 minutes trying to tow him in and get him set up just right. I get this beautiful center image, and I'm really proud. He's got depth. He's got resolution. And I walk away as a proud dad, because I've just done like the coolest dad thing ever. And so he walks in from school, and he starts moving the speakers back because they're in the way of his weights. And what are you doing? Oh no, Dad, I'm sorry. They sound great. I like them just the way they are. But
our wireless speaker is also 24192. Like, I don't know if there's any other 24192 speakers like that. But like my daughter, she doesn't need to know that. I just see the smile on her face. And then I said, well, what do you think? She said, well, it sounds a lot clearer. I'm like, right. That's it.
That's what they need to know. That's the way my kids describe it. My wife describes it as well. It's clear. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh great. That's all I need to know. We don't need to go into technical information. It's the same as like, if I bought a brand new BMW, 335, I really don't care the technology and it's, whatever, what kind of fuel injection it's got, what kind of pistons it's got. I don't care. Your pistons are made of unobtainium. I don't care. When I put my foot on the gas, does it go fast? That's the only thing I care about, right? When people listen to music, really, I think when they're real people outside of, so say, the audiophile community, I know my family, all they want to do, they want to be able to push a button. They want to know that button is going to work without too terribly much latency, and that music is going to start playing. They kind of feel like I'm going to give them the best experience once it's there, but they have to have that basic human need met, that we do not like latency. We're not latency people. When we hit a button, we want it to work, right?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And you can't be, as an audiophile, we can't be too exclusive, because we've got to recognize that the next generation are going to have different expectations. And as much as we might want things to stay as they are, they're going to change. Apart from vinyl, for some reason, vinyl's always around, and vinyl's got some magic associated with it. But apart from the vinyl, like, we know everything else is going to change.
Yeah, I still use vinyl. People very frequently will be saying things like, "Oh, well, one is better than the other." I don't care. It's like I have a great time when I put on my turntable. I have a great time when I'm listening to streaming. I just want the best experience on both. right?
Yeah.
So when I'm out and about, I want to have the same experience, that same musical experience when I put on my headphones as I do when I'm sitting in front of my system. All I'm looking for is emotion, and I think that's really what both of our companies are really about at the very core of what we're doing. We are the music lovers.
Yeah. I had an interesting experience yesterday. I had two visitors from Japan. Like, we're over in the UK already, otherwise I guess they wouldn't have come. So they had to kind of stay in the UK. And they came up to Scotland, and because they were visiting Scotland, they asked if they could come and get a tour of Linn. So I gave them a tour of Linn. And when we got into the dem room, we've got our top system, climax system, and I'm playing them like Linn Records music. And then I said, is there something that you would like to listen to? And so the woman, she was an audiophile. The guy was not at all. And he kind of embarrassingly, like, he's quite embarrassed. And he's like, well, have you got any Bon Jovi? And I was like, yeah, of course we've got Bon Jovi. So we put on, he wants Living on a Prayer, right? Now, that's a song from when I was probably, I don't know, 13 years old or something, and it was everywhere. I can't honestly say that I've ever sat down and listened to that record, like really listened on a hi-fi system, like at full resolution. So it was a new experience. And as the music started, there's like a kind of wind chimey noise. And then when the wow wow woo is going on, there's actually like some triangles going ding ding, and we're like, shit, like, I'm noticing all of this stuff that I had no idea was there. And that's what great hi-fi does. It gives you that like revelation, that clarity, like, oh, like these guys put a lot of effort into making this record, to the point where most people, they would never even hear that stuff. Not, like, you enjoy the song and everything, but when you really hear it like that and you listen to it, and then the guy starts like really rocking out, and I was joining in, was like, wow, like this is actually great music, So I think you have to be open to all of that. It's like probably anything you listen to on a great hi-fi system is going to sound amazing. Like pretty much any well-produced piece of music is going to sound amazing. And that's the magic of it, is connecting people with it, as you say, with that emotion, that just on a sort of, random, whatever, Wednesday afternoon with a couple of Japanese visitors, you can find yourself rocking out to a song from, 30 years ago.
Yeah, we are absolutely brothers when it comes to that. And I've got to know something. This playlist that you guys put together, who put that together?
Well, that's put together by our events guys, and they compile that. Some of the tracks are like from Linn staff, and some of them would be from customers, and some would just be because like they'll use them when they're on demos, and they'll know that they are great showcase tracks to use in different demonstrations that they do. So it's like a whole mixture of different things. But we've been putting out these mixtapes through the whole lockdown phase, like on Instagram. And I think like I've been doing that as well. I've been doing my own lockdown playlist, and lots of people have been doing that. But these Linn mixtapes, as we call them, have been really popular with people. And then so the compilations that we put up, like we're going to put this one on Qobuz. It's just like trying to collect together some of the music that matters to us and is meaningful to us, and share it with whoever wants to listen.
So we've got on our partners page on Qobuz on Qobuz.com. If you sign up, you can do that free for 30 days and actually hear the Linn playlist. But I gotta tell you, I am when someone gives me a playlist that I am passive over. So it's got sort of all the standard Hotel California, Nas Laughlin, Keith Don't Go, whatever, just like kind of the standard stuff that you would hear. I just go, okay, well, it sounds okay. But the ones that I really treasure are the ones that I can hit play. And I actually listen to every single one. There's not a playlist that comes through that comes over my desk that I don't listen to. Now, if it's kind of a boring playlist, I will click over it. If I hear Pin Pen Alley one more time, I'm gonna stick a pencil in my neck. So I'll skip over. So some of the playlists, they take me 10 minutes to go through. Others, I mean, I am there from the beginning song to the end song. I think I only did a couple of skips on yours, but from the
Oh,
very first song, it just totally blew me away. It turned me on to so much cool new music that I wasn't familiar with. And I really think that that's what these playlists should be, right? They should have personality to them. It shouldn't just be a collection of songs that makes your hi-fi sound one way. It's like, what's the personality of the company? And I really felt like I got a great sense of the personality of Linn, which was a bit quirky, a bit off the beaten path, but oh so too cool.
Yeah, and also like there's a lot of very knowledgeable people in our company who really know their music. So for someone like me, like if you love your music and you know you've always got people you can go to for recommendations, it's a great resource. And it's something that makes you that love your hi-fi system more and love your time that you spend listening to music more. Discovering new music is like one of the most amazing things about having a great hi-fi system, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've listened to more new music over the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years than I ever have. And one of the things that I'm so happy about is that the production of music is getting so much better. The engineers are learning so much more about how to actually record on a digital format. There was so much condescending information even to begin with, and you could really hardly blame them with almost every audio file going, these digital recordings are terrible, which for the first, 10, 15 years, most of them were just horrid. That you would get a pretty good one every now and then, but for the most part, I was always going, gosh, I sure wish it had a little more bottom end, or I sure wish it was extended a little bit more on the top end. Well, after, 10, 15, 20 years, these guys have finally figured out how to record on digital. And now they're getting so much better gear to begin with that they do record on, that I start listening to albums that have been recorded in the last year, 6 months, 2 years, and my mouth totally drops. Even like the Billie Eilish thing, right? $3,000 worth of recording gear. Are you kidding me? It's just unbelievable. So I'm really, really happy about all of the new high resolution that's available to us. And just so you know, about, oh gosh, maybe 80% of the stuff that we're getting in new releases every week, they're almost all in high resolution.
Which means there's still 20% of people not recording in high resolution, and you've got to ask, why is that?
That's a great discussion. I hope you can join us next week, because I think you'll enjoy the live stream. We're going to have Bill Schnee. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't. Not familiar.
Bill Schnee. He's the guy that that recorded one of the first albums that every record store had, every hi-fi store had, Pressure Cooker with Thelma Houston. You remember that? He recorded that. He recorded.
I think I'm younger than you, David.
Say again?
I think I'm a bit younger than you.
Yeah, I think you are too. I was thinking that is what I was saying. The bubble was out there, and I'm thinking, I think a lad was in like maybe junior high when this was going on. But at any rate, he ended up doing like a ton of Toto stuff, Boss Skaggs. I mean, just some of the best recordings that you could. He's got about, I think it's almost 500 of the best recorded albums that you could imagine through the last 3-4 decades. So we're gonna have Bill on. He was really good at digital way early on, and he's going to be talking a lot about high resolution and how he went to it. And like people on our side of things tend to think that high resolution was created for the audiophile world, when and in fact this is a recording thing. This is tools for the recording engineers that we're lucky enough to be a part of and get to take advantage of.
Yeah, the recordings came first. That's right. I mean, that goes back to my story. Yeah, where it was the existence of the recordings that gave us the confidence to make the high resolution players, not the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've only got, I think it's about time for the show to be to end. I told you that this wouldn't This wouldn't even seem like an hour. I've had a really, really good time with you, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on and joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be on. I just wanted one last kind of word about Linn, and it's a
Please.
question I get asked very often. Is like, who at Linn has the golden ears, and who decides what the products sound like? And I was asked it recently, and the reason I bring it up is because I think probably most audio companies do have somebody like that who's got the golden ears and kind of crafts the sound of the speakers or crafts the sound of the products. And what's unusual about Linn is that we don't have anybody like that. And actually, part of our philosophy is like music belongs to everyone. And we believe that everybody can tell the difference between like what sounds better, and that we live that in our company. And so like the idea that one person would be like, yeah, make it sound more like this or like that, it's like, no, like you engineer it, you want to get the high resolution data from Qobuz, and you want to protect and preserve that through every part of the chain. And the end result of that is it sounds better. Like the better you stream it, the better you put it through your volume control, the better you put it through your power amp, the better you put it through your speakers, the less you lose. And that's what make music sound better, not somebody going like crafting it with their own minds or with their own opinions. And I think that's probably like from an internal point of view, what I'd say is like what makes Linn really different to, well, any other audio company that I've encountered. Just that philosophy of music really belonging to everybody.
Well, you guys have done a fantastic job for decades, and with you at the helm, I expect it to continue to grow and to flourish. And we're really, really excited and pleased to have you guys as our latest partner. Everybody, please go check out the Linn playlist on Qobuz, and be sure Neetha has put it up on the bottom, but check out the Linn website. And um, as you probably noticed, Gilad and I didn't sit down and really concentrate on the questions that were being asked while they were being asked, because frankly, we want these things to be very conversational. So if we didn't happen to get to your question, they're going to be these will be archived on our social sites. So we'll go back, and if there's a question there, we'll absolutely answer it. No question will go ignored. So we'd like to thank everyone for. Thank you, Todd. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Glad, wishing you the very best. I'd love to do this again, maybe in a few months if you would like to.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of topics that we didn't get to, but I also want to say to you, David, like keep fighting the good fight. And I think that the work that Qobuz is doing is so important to the whole industry. So yeah, thank you as well. Thanks for bringing me on the show.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you next week with Bill Schnee. Join us there. That's going to be a very fun time. So until then, thanks very much, and we'll see you soon.